Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Assalamu alaikum. It's good to be delving into this history again.
Absolutely. And just as a reminder, this series is brought to you by the creators of Babylilm.app. We're using AI narration to explore Dr. Ibrahim Ayati's incredible book, A Probe into the History of Ashura. Our goal, really, is to make this profound history accessible, pulling out the key insights for you.
And Dr. Ayati, is a really esteemed Iranian Shia historian, researcher, preacher. His work has such depth, such rigor. So we're building on a very solid foundation here.
Definitely. Now, in our last deep dive, we really went into the final years of Muawiya's rule, a turbulent time.
Very much so. We looked at how he consolidated power, how that kiss treaty with Imam Husayn was, well, completely disregarded.
Right, and the systematic persecution of Imam Ali's supporters, the Shia, it was quite methodical.
It was. And crucially, we talked about that unprecedented step, appointing Yazid as successor.
Turning the caliphate into a hereditary monarchy, essentially, something completely new and problematic for the time.
Exactly. And we touched on Yazid's character, as the book describes him, frivolous, irreligious, frankly, completely unfit.
Even Muawiya had his concerns, didn't he, according to the sources?
He did, which just highlights the contradiction. All of this basically set the stage for a collision course. Anyone committed to true Islam couldn't just stand by.
Okay, so let's pick up right there. Today, we step directly into the moments right after Muawiya's death.
The immediate aftermath.
We're focusing on those critical events in Medina. Specifically, Imam Husayn's principled, unwavering refusal to pledge allegiance, bay'ah, to Yazid.
And this refusal, it wasn't just politics. It was deeply rooted in his commitment to Islamic values, to his grandfather's legacy.
So this period is really foundational for understanding Imam Husayn's entire movement, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. It highlights his core beliefs about leadership, what it should be in Islam, piety, justice.
Contrasting sharply with Yazid.
Exactly. Yazid represented corruption, oppression, illegitimacy, really. So we'll explore that initial confrontation, the threats, and the Imam's powerful responses.
Responses that still echo today.
They really do. It's where the line was definitively drawn.
Right. So let's set the scene. The year is 60 AH. Muawiya is dead.
And the power passes swiftly to Yazid.
Now, his ascension wasn't just a change of guard. The book emphasizes it was a profound turning point for the ummah, the Muslim community.
A turning point, and for many, a deeply worrying one. Yazid's character wasn't a secret. His deviation from Islamic norms, his corruption, it was widely known.
The source paints a pretty stark picture. Habitual drunkard, playing musical instruments, even playing with dogs. Things seen as completely inappropriate for a leader.
Entirely antithetical. The book suggests a ruler like that couldn't uphold Islam, he could only dismantle it. His personal life wasn't just personal, it was a public challenge to the community's values.
A threat to the very fabric of the faith.
Precisely. It wasn't just about administrative failure, it was about spiritual and moral decay at the very top.
So with this situation, what's Yazid's very first move? His top priority?
Secure allegiance, bay'ah, immediately. And strategically, he focuses on three key individuals.
Okay, who were they and why these three specifically? Why was their allegiance so critical for him?
The focus was laser sharp. Imam Husayn, Abdullah bin Zubayr, and Abdullah bin Umar.
Big names.
Huge names. They weren't just prominent. They represented different kinds of authority and influence, moral authority, lineage, popular support.
Their backing would give him the legitimacy he desperately needed.
Exactly. Abdullah bin Umar, son of the second caliph, respected for piety, though generally apolitical. His bay'ah would signal acceptance from, let's say, the traditionalist scholars.
Okay.
Abdullah bin Zubayr, son of a major companion, a powerful figure in his own right, especially in Makkah, a potential rival. Getting his allegiance neutralizes a threat.
Right. Makes sense.
But Imam Husayn, his allegiance was the absolute prize, the non-negotiable one for Yazid.
Why above the others?
Because he was the grandson of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He carried immense spiritual weight, moral authority, and deep love from across the ummah. His endorsement, even a reluctant one, would have silenced so much opposition.
It would have legitimized Yazid in a way nothing else could.
Completely. Conversely, his refusal, well, that would be a massive public declaration that the spiritual heart of Islam rejected this new rule. It would expose Yazid's illegitimacy for all to see.
So the confrontation happens in Medina, the Prophet's city. Walid bin Uqba, the governor, summons Imam Husayn. Can you paint a picture of that meeting, the atmosphere?
You have to imagine Medina, usually so serene, now holding its breath, the governor's mansion. The tension must have been palpable when Imam Husayn walked in.
He knew why he was called, surely.
Oh, absolutely. He knew the gravity. Walid, apparently quite uncomfortable, relays the news of Muawiya's death, and then Yazid's demand for allegiance. Urgently.
So, not a polite request.
Not at all. It's a direct order, an ultimatum, really. And adding to the pressure, Marwan bin Hakam was there.
Marwan, known for his animosity towards the Ahlul
Deep-seated hostility. His presence alone signaled danger. This wasn't just official business. It felt like a trap being set.
And Marwan didn't just sit there quietly, did he? He offered some advice.
He did. And it was chillingly direct. He told Walid, essentially, if Husayn refuses the oath, kill him. Right here, right now.
Wow. Just like that. No hesitation.
None. And that, right there, reveals everything about Yazid's regime, doesn't it? It wasn't about consent. It was about coercion. Terror.
A clear sign of tyranny from the very beginning.
Precisely. Marwan saw Imam Husayn's moral standing as an existential threat. Even his silence was a challenge. So, in Marwan's view, elimination was the only way to secure Yazid's power.
It shows this was about brute force, not principle.
Exactly. Suppress dissent violently if necessary.
So, faced with this direct demand, this immediate threat to his life, Marwan urging his execution, how did Imam Husayn respond?
His response was, well, it was remarkable. Calm, dignified, but absolutely firm, rooted in principle.
He didn't just say yes or no.
No. He first flatly refused to give a secret oath, he said, and this is key. I will certainly not be contented with my taking the oath secretly, and would like that I should take it in the presence of the people.
Demanding transparency. Why was that so important?
It wasn't just a tactic. He knew a secret oath could be manipulated, misrepresented later. A public stance, whether acceptance or refusal, would be clear. A message to everyone. It denied Yazid the ability to claim legitimacy covertly.
Smart and courageous.
Incredibly courageous. And then, according to the source, when Marwan pushed, likely urging Walid to act on his advice, Imam Husayn confronted him directly.
What did he say?
He turned to Marwan and said, "Oh, bastard, is it you who will kill me or Walid?"
A direct challenge. Right in front of the governor?
Yes, absolutely fearless. It showed complete contempt for their illegitimate authority and their threats. It reportedly silenced Marwan.
And Walid,
Yeah.
What did he do?
Walid, perhaps taken aback by the imam's presence, his dignity, maybe even fearing the consequences of harming the prophet's grandson so openly, he hesitated. He agreed to wait until the next day for a public gathering.
So a temporary reprieve.
A brief pause, but the battle lines were drawn. The imam had made his stand clear: principled resistance, demanding openness, refusing to legitimize tyranny in the shadows.
Now, during this period, Imam Husayn made one of his most famous, most powerful statements, often quoted, especially in conversation with Marwan.
Yes, the statement about saying goodbye to Islam.
Exactly. He said, if the Muslim ummah becomes subjected to the rulership of a person like Yazid, one should say goodbye to Islam and abandon it. That's incredibly strong language. It's more than just political opposition.
Yeah, far more. It's existential. As the book highlights, this wasn't just Imam Husayn disliking Yazid personally, though he certainly did. It was a warning about the consequences of Yazid's rulership.
What consequences specifically? How would Yazid's rule mean saying goodbye to Islam?
It was about the fundamental corruption Yazid embodied and would inevitably spread. The Imam saw that Yazid's actions, his values, his policies, they wouldn't just bend Islamic principles, they would break them. They would eliminate the very essence, the spirit, the traces of true Islam.
So not just bad governance, but the actual destruction of the religion's core.
That's the warning. Yazid's personal life, as we mentioned the drinking, the disregard for prayer was already a public scandal. The book states clearly it was the duty of all Muslims not to agree to take the oath of allegiance to him, because such an oath meant approval of all his actions.
So pledging allegiance meant endorsing sin at the highest level.
Precisely. It meant normalizing corruption, but it went deeper. The Umayyads under Muawiya had already started distorting Islam. Remember the mandatory cursing of Imam Ali from pulpit?
Yes, a terrible practice.
And promoting Muawiya himself as some kind of paragon. Yazid's rule would accelerate this distortion exponentially, making lawful things unlawful, unlawful things lawful, turning the divine religion, as the book says, into a plaything in the hands of idiots and bullies.
So the Imam saw accepting Yazid as signifying the complete collapse of the Ummah's moral and religious framework.
Exactly. It wasn't about giving up hope in Allah, but recognizing that accepting this leadership meant the Ummah itself was abandoning true Islam, leaving only an empty shell.
Wow, a stark warning indeed.
It was a call to conscience, a declaration that silence, acceptance in the face of this kind of leadership was equivalent to walking away from the faith itself. It implied that active opposition, resisting this corruption, was essential to preserve Islam, even if it meant sacrifice.
Before he left Medina, knowing the path ahead was perilous, Imam Husayn wrote a testament, a message to his brother, Muhammad bin Hanafiya.
Yes, a hugely significant document found in chapter 6 of the book. It really clarifies his intentions beyond any doubt.
What does it say? What's the core message?
Well, first he affirms his core beliefs. Tawhid, prophethood, the day of judgment, standard affirmations of faith. But then he states his purpose very, very clearly.
What were his words?
He says, I have not come out with the intention of violence and rebellion or in obedience to my passions, and it is not my object to create mischief on the earth or to oppress anyone.
Okay, so he's stating what he's not doing. No personal ambition, no desire for chaos.
Exactly. Then he states his positive aim. My only object is to reform the affairs of the Muslim nation and to act according to the conduct of my father and grandfather.
Reform. And following the path of Imam Ali and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them.
Precisely. Reform the ummah and restore the authentic sunnah.
Now, Dr. Ayati's book poses that central question. Reaction or planned revolution? How does this testament support the planned revolution idea?
It's fundamental support. This isn't the language of someone reacting impulsively. It's a clear, articulated mission statement. He's not driven by anger or personal grievance against Yazid.
He has a positive goal, reform.
A divinely guided objective, rooted in principle, to fix the corruption that had, as the book says, terribly shaken Islam under Muawiya, and now threatened to completely extinguish it under Yazid.
So his movement was a conscious effort to wake people up.
Yes, to draw the attention of the people to the malpractices of Bani Umayyah, to show that their rule wasn't truly Islamic. It was Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar, enjoining good, forbidding evil on the grandest scale.
A revolution for moral and religious restoration.
Exactly. Not for power, but for principle.
The book also mentions his spiritual preparations before leaving, visiting the Prophet's grave at night.
Yes, it paints a very moving picture, praying, "Oh Allah, I love good deeds and hate bad deeds." It shows his deep piety, the spiritual strength behind this monumental decision.
He knew the likely outcome, didn't he? Martyrdom. Captivity for his family.
The sources strongly suggest he did. He spoke of it. He saw his sacrifice not as a failure, but as part of a divine plan, a necessary act to awaken the Ummah and ensure Islam's survival by exposing the Umayyads.
A complete acceptance of destiny.
Yes. And then he made that call to others. Only he who is prepared to sacrifice his life for my sake and to meet Allah should accompany me.
Setting the terms very clearly. This is a path of sacrifice.
A sacred journey undertaken with full awareness for the sake of Allah and his religion.
So after making this stand, writing this testament, Imam Husayn leaves Medina, the city of his grandfather, his home. That must have been incredibly poignant.
Immensely so. Medina was everything, the place the Prophet found refuge, the heart of the early Muslim community, his family's home. Leaving it wasn't abandoning it, but it was a necessary step.
A strategic move, not an escape.
Exactly. Heading to Makkah, another holy city, a place where perhaps his message could be heard more freely, at least initially. Medina had become too dangerous, the pressure too immediate. Makkah offered a different stage.
And his mindset as he left. The sources describe a deep spiritual resolve, don't they? Even comparing it implicitly to Prophet Musa leaving Egypt.
Yes, there's that profound sense of determination of accepting a divine path. He understood his destiny. He used that powerful imagery. Death has marked the human beings in the same manner in which a necklace leaves its mark on the neck of a young woman.
Suggesting death is inevitable, even beautiful in a way, for the righteous.
Yes, and he stated plainly, a site of martyrdom has been selected for me by Allah, and I am going there. No ambiguity, no fear of death.
Just acceptance of a divine plan.
Complete acceptance. A plan he believed was for Islam's ultimate benefit. It echoes Musa's flight from tyranny, seeking refuge and following God's command even into the unknown.
And again, he reiterated the call to sacrifice for those joining him.
Only he who is prepared to sacrifice his life for my sake and to meet Allah should accompany me. It underlines the sacred, utterly devoted nature of this journey. Self-sacrifice for Islam's preservation. You know, what's really striking, looking back at these initial events, is the clarity. Imam Husayn knew exactly what he was doing and why.
No ambiguity in his stance or his words.
His refusal of daya wasn't just political maneuvering, it was a fundamental stand. Reform the ummah, save Islam's core from being destroyed by Yazid's rule.
And that goodbye to Islam statement really hammers home the stakes as he saw them. Compromise wasn't an option because it meant losing the essence of the faith.
Exactly. So his departure from Medina, with that testament, that spiritual resolve, it sets everything in motion. It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? Standing firm on principles, no matter the cost.
It truly is. Timeless.
And it leaves us with a critical question, doesn't it? What happens when a leader this determined on such a clear mission starts his journey and the forces of oppression realize the threat he poses?
Things escalate.
They inevitably do. His stand in Medina was just the beginning, the first ripple.
And that leads us perfectly into our next deep dive. We'll be turning our focus to Kufa.
Kufa, a city with its own complex history with the Ahlul Bayt.
Indeed. We'll explore those fervent calls, the letters pouring in, urging Imam Husayn to come and lead them.
And the crucial mission of his envoy, his cousin, Muslim bin Aqil, sent ahead to gauge the situation.
It's a story filled with hope, promises, but also betrayal and the ultimate test of loyalty. It's another critical chapter leading towards Karbala.
Absolutely essential for understanding the path that lay ahead.
We hope you'll join us for that. Thank you for being with us on this deep dive. Kutafiz.
Kutafiz. May Allah enhance his blessings of guidance upon us and grant us abundant success in acquiring knowledge.